Good morning, everyone. I appreciate the way that we've started. I think there's lots of chatter, lots of talk and excitement, but I think that you are all here and you recognize that you are in the presence of somebody with tremendous power, tremendous influence, and it's really a powerful thing to be here today. So thank you for just kind of bringing the room down. My name is Brendan Brown. I'm the Director of Education for the school board. And I am really pleased to be here today with you, and we're so glad that you made the journey here today. I think 6 or 7 of our schools, our civics classes and history and I think a science class. So thank you to the staff for bringing everyone here today. But we're really privileged to have the opportunity for you to learn from someone who has lived a life that could have been something that would have been certainly a tragedy, but turned it into a promotion of peace and that idea that when something happens to us, we turn it into doing something good for others. So Setsuko was, as I got to know her story, she survived the Hiroshima bombing when she was 13 years old. So that was when, at the end of as the World War II, 1945, an atomic bomb was dropped, and the devastation, as I'm sure that you know from your studies, was tremendous and horrific. And from that point, she has dedicated her life to the idea of disarmament, of peace, of making sure that something like that never happens again. And her work trying to get countries to sign on to peace agreements and sign on to make commitments to make sure this never happens again resulted in not only spreading the word and sharing around the world the devastation, the harm that she lived personally, but to try to make sure that this never happens again. And as a result, she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. So we have here today with us someone who is recognized internationally as a champion of peace. And in a Catholic school board, one of our main objectives is we try to live out peace in the world. So we're so happy that you have the opportunity to speak with our students today. Thank you for your attention. You really are you're about to experience a really amazing opportunity. And I invite you to really listen and to really think and to really be thoughtful about, this is somebody who lived through history and is committed to making sure that there's an influence on our future as a result. So I don't know if there's more for you to say, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here. And I know that you're going to really enjoy speaking with these amazing students.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I appreciate those words. And before we begin, I just want to thank you all for joining us today. And I wanted to give some introductory comments just to sort of crystallize the importance of today and that you're actually here making history. This is a very historical moment. And today it might not seem that way for you, but years in the making, you'll look back at this opportunity to meet this incredible human being who's made such a profound impact on the global world. So today we gather to honor Setsuko Thurlow, a woman whose courage and conviction has helped shape the global movement for nuclear disarmament. As a survivor of Hiroshima, her story is not only profoundly compelling, but it is a moral call of action for all of us and for generations to come. Through her unwavering advocacy, she has transformed personal tragedy into powerful force for change, always reminding us and the world of the human cost of nuclear weapons, not only on us as humans, but also on Mother Earth. Her voice has galvanized leaders across the world. It has influenced international policy and inspired countless individuals around the globe to stand up for a future free from nuclear threat. Today, a new generation continues to draw strength from her resilience, her clarity, and her unshakable belief that humanity can and must choose peace over war. Her impact has been described as the voice that carries the weight of history and the hope for a safer future. A reminder that courage begins with speaking the truth, even when it is painful. Many have noted that few voices has shaped this conversation of nuclear disarmament as powerfully and as humanely as she has, and that her advocacy stands as a blueprint for moral responsibility in our time. We warmly welcome all the students and teachers joining us today. Your presence reflects the very spirit of learning, the very spirit of empathy and global citizenship that Setsuko's work inspires. As part of this gathering, we are also honored to present a screening today of an important documentary, The Vow of Hiroshima, that illuminates her extraordinary life achievements and the movement that she has ignited over time. Thank you. Let's give her a round of applause.
I am, I am very happy to be with you today. What the Hiroshima, Nagasaki means in our lives, and end up looking at our own moral responsibility for today's. How about this? Hello? I'm sorry, my voice is kind of dried. It has a tickle. Can you hear me? Or should I shout? I am very happy to be here in this beautiful, comfortable building. Actually, I live in the I live next street. So it's great to discover this beautiful building among us and to be among you. I feel very comfortable to be here because I have worked with so many inspiring Catholic peace activists in my life. And for example, let me see, I worked with and worshiped and worked and defend in the federal court of the United States, defending the charged peace activists for their action for civil disobedience. In the United States, there are quite a large group of Catholic faithfuls who are putting their life online and to show what they mean. And we have had a prayer meeting, and besides White House, also at Smithsonian Museum, where the Enola Gay, the airplane which dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And all these memories are coming back to me. And I worked with Father Lombardi. Maybe you don't know, you're too young to know, but he was the director of social action of Toronto Diocese of Catholic Church. And when we worked together, it was to celebrate Toronto's Sesquicentennial, the 150th anniversary of Toronto as established as a city. The Mayor Egerton asked Father Lombardi and I to get involved. So I flew to Japan and negotiated with the mayors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki to cooperate with Toronto. They agreed, and then we went back with Father Lombardi. We got the flame of peace from their peace garden. We brought it back here and to light it by Pope John Paul II from Vatican. The city of Toronto invited him to come and light the flame of peace. And the Queen Elizabeth came. That was in mid-80s. So we had a lot of comings and goings. And for the 25th anniversary of the Peace Garden here, I think several thousand students from your system, from Catholic School Board, participated in the program. At that time, a young gentleman, Mr. Trudeau, who just left his position as a prime minister, he was with me, with us, and we both spoke to the young people. So, and also, I traveled to Vatican to meet personally the Pope Francis. All these memories are coming back to me, and I feel quite comfortable to be here with you and very happy. As a survivor of the atomic bomb of Hiroshima, I have spent most of my adult life as a disarmament educator, advocate for peace, disarmament, and I shared my personal experience. I shared my testimony of survival because by doing that, I wanted to put the human face on discussion of peace disarmament, which tend to be cut and dry and abstract. But I thought my personal sharing would give the opportunity for you to have a more empathy and sensitivity to understand what really nuclear weapon can do to humanity. In the spring of 1945, After Germany's defeat, the United States was able to concentrate on ending the war with Japan. United States forces captured the islands of Tinian and Saipan in the Pacific, enabling them to begin repeated incendiary attacks on Japan. Over 70 cities or so were devastated by the daily bombing, but not Hiroshima. Why, we wondered. Little did we know that Hiroshima had been selected by US forces, and for them to try out the newly discovered treasure, the atomic bombs. The interim committee recommended to President Truman that the target cities were to be kept intact for a new type of bomb. Target cities should be military installations surrounded by workers' residences, and no prior warning was to be given to the citizens. That fateful day, August 6, 1945, as a 13 years old grade 8 student and a member of the student mobilization program, I was at the Army headquarters. 1.8 kilometers from the ground zero. About 30 of us had been selected. The 30 of us students were selected, were trained, and we were to work as a decoding assistant of the secret messages. Can you imagine? 13 years old girl doing such important job. That shows how desperate Japan was in the losing war. At 8:15 in the morning, Major Yanai was giving us a pep talk and to say, well, this is the day you should show your patriotism and to the emperor. And we said, yes, sir, we'll do our very best. And suddenly, I saw in the window the blinding flash. And then I still remember clearly the sensation I had floating in the air. Obviously, the blast destroyed the building, and my bodies, together with hundreds of thousands of people at the military headquarters, we were just all thrown up into the air. And when I regained the consciousness, I found myself in a total silence and darkness. I knew I was pinned under the collapsed building. I tried to move, but I couldn't. So I knew I was facing death. Then I started hearing faint voices of the girls in the dark. Mother, help me. God, help me. Then all of a sudden, I felt a strong hand shaking my left shoulder, and a strong male voice said, "Don't give up. Keep moving, keep pushing. I'm trying to free you. You see the sun ray coming through that opening. Crawl toward it quickly." That's what I did. By the time I came out, the rebels were on fire. That meant about 30 other girls from my school who were in the same building were burnt to death alive. As I came out of the rubble, it was dark. Although this happened at 8:15 in the morning, it was dark when I came out because of the explosion, all the dust and smoke and all the particles in the air were up there preventing the sunshine coming through. The soldier said, you girls, myself and two other girls managed to escape. So three of us were told to escape to the nearby hillside. In the dark, I saw some moving object approaching me, and I found them ghosts. I call it the procession of ghosts. They didn't look like human beings. Their hair stood straight up. The parts of their bodies were missing. And some people were carrying their own eyeballs, and some with a burst stomach, with the intestine hanging out. They were slowly shuffling from the center of the city. And we joined that procession. We escaped to the nearby hill. By learning how to step over the dead bodies and dying people. Okay. Thank you. And so we joined the procession. We reached the hillside. At the foot of the hillside, there was a huge military training ground about the size of 2 football fields. And by the time we got there, the place was packed with the dead bodies and dying people. I didn't see the panic-stricken people running around asking for help. No, it was mysteriously quiet. The voice I heard was a whisper. I get people just didn't have the physical and psychological strength to be talking in a normal voice. They are simply whispering, water, water please, water please. That was all they are talking about. We three girls were relatively lightly injured, We wanted to be of help to them, but we had no cups or containers to carry water. So we went to the nearby stream. We washed all the blood and dirt from our bodies, and we tore our blouses and soaked them in the stream, in the cold water. And then we dashed back, and this very wet cloth, we put it to the mouth of the injured people. They just, like that, sucked in the moisture. That was a level of rescue operation. I quickly looked around, see if there were any healthcare professionals, but no doctors, no nurses. I hear about 80% of the healthcare professionals themselves were killed. The remaining 20% must have been engaged in helping people, but not where I was. When hundreds, maybe over 1,000 people were lying on the ground, piling up on the ground. So under the hot sun, no water, no medication, no healthcare professionals' attention. That's how the people in that place died. Well, we kept busy doing that all day. And when the darkness fell, we sat on the hill. And all night, we watched the entire city burn, feeling numbed from the massive death and human suffering we had witnessed. And that was my first day. I said about 30 girls were selected for this work at Army headquarters. The remaining students from my school, 351 altogether, they were in the center part of the city, together with several thousand students in grade 7 and 8 from all the high schools of the city. They were engaged in the task of clearing the fire lane. Maybe you don't understand what I mean by fire lane. You see, the city was getting ready for imminent fire bombing by the US airplane. So by making a very wide street, 100-meter wide street, and if the fire starts on this side, this won't come over here because of the 100-meter road in between. This was a preventative measure. So the buildings were destroyed and somebody had to clean up. And several thousand grade 7, grade 8 students were appointed to do this job. My best girlfriend, Miss Muramoto, she was there as one of the several thousand students in the center part of the city, where most of the students was simply incinerated, vaporized, or carbonized by the heat of 4,000 degrees Celsius generated by the atomic bomb. But Ms. Muramoto miraculously survived. So a few months later, she came back to our temporary school on the hill and told us how their last minutes were like. All the students couldn't stand up and walk. They were just crawling on the ground. Miss Yonehara, mathematics teacher, said, well, those of you who can move, who can crawl, come to me, come toward me. And we make circle and we sing our favorite hymn. They chose Nearer to Thee, my God, something like that. Nearer to Thee, my God. It's quite significant to them. And as they sang, one by one collapsed and had a last breath. Another girlfriend, Miss Sasaki, on August 7th, the following day after the bombing, she went back where her house had stood and found the white bones and ashes of her entire family. And she too told us she just stood there without emotion. It's impossible to have appropriate emotional response at a time like that. Some American psychiatrist at the Princeton, Yale University did a study how human beings behave in the ultimate condition like that. And he coined the word psychic numbing. When the outside stimuli is so strong and so massive, and automatically our psyche ceases to function appropriately. I think that's what happened when I, together with my parents, were engaged in cremating my own sister. When the soldier came, made the hole in the ground, threw the body, poured the gasoline, threw the matches, and said, oh, stomach is not burned yet. The brain needs some more burning. That kind of crude remark. I was standing there just simply not feeling. I did not, cognitively, my brain was functioning. My sister was being cremated and all that, together with her 4-year-old child. But emotionally, I was not able to respond appropriately. And the memory of this troubled me for a long time, because my dear sister, and yet I didn't even have drops of tears. Obviously, I couldn't. Only when I got to university, started studying psychology, I began to understand what could happen to us. Um, well, this 4-year-old nephew of mine, he was transformed into a burned, blackened, and swollen chunk of flesh, begging in a faint voice for water. Until the death allowed him well, his mother, my sister, until her last breath, she kept apologizing to her husband at war for failing to protect her child. Oh, those are very sad stories I'm sharing with you, but actually happened to 140,000 people of that city. Can you imagine 140,000 instantly disappear from the face of this planet? It's an incredible story, but that happened. I witnessed this with my own eyes. That's what atomic bomb did. Let me see. Let me see. It's a good thing I have this. Yes. So, so the city disappeared. City you know, familiar environment, your neighborhood, your school, churches, stores, all these familiar things, they suddenly disappears. And 140,000 people disappears. Just put yourself in that situation and try to imagine this incredible, but actually happened. And not only did the survivor have to endure the physical devastations of near starvation after the war, you see, about 10 days, 10 days, yeah, 10 days after Hiroshima attack. And then 3 days later, Nagasaki attack. And Japan finally surrendered and became controlled by the occupation forces. And so people not only endure with the physical devastation of the near starvation, homelessness, lack of medical care, rapidly spreading social discrimination against survivors as contaminated ones by nuclear poison. Total lack of service by the Japanese government, the collapse of the authoritarian and militaristic social system, and the sudden introduction to a democratic way of life, but also they suffered psychosocial control by the Allied forces, which occupied Japan. The occupation authorities established the Atomic Bomb Casualty Commission in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But the sole purpose of this commission was to study the effects of the radiation of the bombs on human beings and not to provide treatment or medication to the injured. Needless to say, survivors felt treated as guinea pigs, not once but twice, first as the targets of the atomic bombing, then as the subject of medical research. The occupation authorities also censored media coverage of survivors' suffering and confiscated their correspondence, diaries, literary writing, films, photographs, medical records, etc. 32,000 items are all, and shipped them to United States. And the idea is to suppress the information of suffering inflicted by the bomb. The triumphant scientific and technological achievement in making the atomic bomb could freely be published. But the human suffering inflicted by the atomic bomb was not to be heard by the world. Following the massive trauma of the bombing, survivors had to repress themselves in silence and isolation, and were thus deprived of the normal process of grieving and healing. With the return of full sovereignty to Japan in 1952, a flood of political, scientific, medical, and historical information became available, enabling scholars, researchers, and journalists to see survivors' experiences in historical perspective and global context. They became aware that the main motives of the atomic bombing was political rather than military. They rejected the American myth that the use of atomic bomb was necessary to end the war quickly, avoid the costly invasion of Japan, and save lives. The president team knew that the Japanese military organization had practically ceased to function, and that the Japanese government had made initial overture for a negotiated surrender, and that the unclarified status of the emperor in an unconditional surrender was the main stumbling block for the Japanese. With the report of the successful testing of atomic bombing in New Mexico, President Truman was advised to use 2 bombs on the Japanese cities. This is strange. I'm sorry. So the president was advised to use 2 bombs quickly. As quickly as possible before USSR, Soviet Union, joined the Allied forces as they had promised. That year in February at the Yalta Conference, Allied forces gathered together, and the United States asked allies to come and join them and help United States to finish Japan together quickly. And France and United UK and Russia, that was not Russia at that time, Soviet Union was asked to join. And the Soviet Union said, well, 3 months after the surrender of Germany, Russians would join the Americans and to join and together finish Japan. That was the understanding. But now United States had this terrific destructive power of atomic bomb. United States alone could achieve what they wanted. They did not wish to have Soviet Union. So before they joined allies, the United States had to use them quickly. With the 5 minutes left. I guess I was giving too much historical background, so I don't have time. So what I want to say is that Hiroshima was under control of occupation forces, which was mostly Americans. And during that time, uh, we witnessed unfortunate things, such as uh, United States established Atomic Bomb Casualty Commission. Oh, I think I have mentioned this already. And they just wanted to do the medical research. I mentioned that, right? Yeah. And also, they suppressed the media coverage of the human suffering. That should not be. I have already said those things. And as a result, well, here's something, somebody I respect very highly, Professor Falk, the professor of international law at the Princeton University in the States. And this is what he wrote in his book. The bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were viewed as a contribution to the ending of popular and just war. Therefore, they have never been appraised in the necessary way as atrocities. They had never been understood as they certainly would have been understood had Hiroshima and Nagasaki been located in Allied countries. Somehow, we got to create that awareness so that Hiroshima is understood to have been on the same level of depravity and in many ways far more dangerous to us as a species and as a civilization than was even Auschwitz. So the failure to see Hiroshima and Nagasaki as atrocities, the regarding of those two 1945 bombs as good bombs that contributed to the winning and ending the just war, helped the American consciousness to accept the subsequent development of nuclear weapons, thus linking the justification of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the disastrous nuclear arms race and Cold War. I have too much historical facts in here. I wanted to go on more, but I have to quit. Because I don't want just to talk about Hiroshima and Nagasaki and what it means for us to live in nuclear age. It's been 80 years. You were born and you're living in nuclear age. Have you taken time to think about what that means to your life, your own life? Certainly, you read a paper and listen to CBC and get the news. The potential annihilation is imminent. We can't believe it, but that is it. Nuclear Scientist magazine says it's 98 minutes to midnight. That's how close we are to the outbreak of nuclear war. Well, I think this is the area we really have to talk about, think about. I am sorry, I misused my allocated time. But whether we like it or not, we are here today. We are living in nuclear age. And 9 nations, United States, UK, France, Russia, and China are the officially recognized nuclear weapon states, plus Israel, India, what's another one next to India? Huh? Pakistan, sorry, and North Korea. 9 nations. In their hands, there are about 12,000 nuclear weapons. Each one of them is much more powerful, destructive than the one used on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Well, situation is pretty urgent. We have to do all we can to prevent that. Well, happy thing I can share with you is that about 8 years ago, 2017, United Nations adopted the proposal, and that was the treaty called Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, the very first treaty which ever bans the nuclear weapon. So right now we have non-proliferation treaty and this new treaty, and those two should be guiding humanity to prevent the war. But the situation at the United Nations is quite chaotic. I guess we can't go further, right? Oh dear, I am very frustrated. I don't talk fast enough, and I give too much historical background on Hiroshima. I am sorry about that. But anyway, you heard a little bit of the historical background. I hope that entices you and that whet the appetite. You go to the library and start learning about Manhattan Project. That's the project which created. And guess what? Canada had a part in it. Canada's uranium from Northwest Territory was brought to Port Hope, just next to us. And that's where it was refined, processed. And that was sent to Columbia University in New York, and then to Chicago, and then ended up in the bomb which was dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This must be new to you because not many people know such important historical facts. And the prime minister at that time was Mackenzie King. When he heard that those bombs had dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, he wrote in his diary, it was good thing those bombs were used on Hiroshima and Nagasaki instead of on white race of Europe. You know, that was a kind of racist remark But anyway, Canada was very much involved in Manhattan Project. Do study it, and 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 then gradually you get the larger picture of the of those days. So
Thank
I
you.
wrote a letter to the Prime Minister saying that. Um, okay.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
Ms. Thurlow. We were wondering if we could go a little bit further. We were wondering if we could take some questions from the students.
Let's do it.
Yes? And
Anyway, okay. Okay, that's
yeah, sorry.
so I just want you to know Canada was very much involved in the whole mess. And you better find out. And I want the Canadian children to grow up learning about Canada's history. It's a hidden history. I wrote to the Prime Minister, no response. Okay.
So you've had so many things to ponder about in this past hour. Just wondering if you had any questions for Ms. Thurlow. Maybe we have time for one or two, and I will come to you.
I was just wondering when you moved to Canada and how old you were.
Excuse me. Can you? What's up? When did I move to Canada? In 1955, after graduating from university in Japan, I came to university in the States on a scholarship. And then I came to University of Toronto, 1955. Yeah. I married a Canadian. That's why I chose to live here. Yeah. It was a very quiet, polite city. Nobody wanted to talk about nuclear weapons. Anyway,
We have another question here.
Hi, this may feel like a personal question, but in my opinion, why do you think the bombs were on those specific? Why do you think that it was America chose to bomb those specific cities?
Why do you think America chose Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Why? Why were they chosen?
why? Well, the interim committee advised President Truman to choose the city which has a military installation and surrounded by citizens' residences, and Japanese residences are made of wood, easy to burn. So, and that was the idea. Yeah, mainly for military purpose. And it has to be indiscriminate attack. And that would be the answer. Why? It was an important military. Oh, maybe I better tell you. Yes, why important military city Hiroshima was. Hiroshima had a very good harbor. Hiroshima had a very good harbor. And guess what? My ancestor was involved in establishing the harbor because when the Japanese government system changed and it was controlled by the national government. Up until then, it was locally managed, but then it became the national control. And then the leader was sent, governor was sent to Hiroshima by boat because there was no train or anything. And there was no harbor, so his wife and children have to be carried by the laborers and so on. So he decided during his term in Hiroshima as a governor, he is going to establish a decent harbor. And he did. And for several years of struggle. And my great grandfather he contributed by raising fund to make that happen. And because of that, when Japan was fighting in war, and Japan had to send the soldiers to the Pacific, all the drafted people were sent to Hiroshima. And Hiroshima became the embarkation center for the soldier to be sent. So when I learned about my family history, what a relationship. Well, anyway, that's why.
Hi, what do you think should be done by the international community and the younger generations to prevent the atrocity of Hiroshima from happening again?
That's an excellent question. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. What the young people can do, should be doing. Well, you are early teens. You have life ahead of you, and you must be thinking what you would do with your life. Well, there is a lot you can do, and really we are hoping that you would follow us. Canada, well, Canada was known and respected by the world as a peace builder. Like you heard about Pearson, Prime Minister Pearson, certainly you heard about, and Mr. Trudeau, he was at the UN and talking about suffocation of nuclear arms race. And Mulroney, he kept Canada from Reagan's Star War project. And Christian, I think he kept Canada from fighting with the then next to Iran. Oh, Iraq, I'm sorry. Yes, he kept Canada from going to Iraq to fight. So we had wonderful leaders. They were respected. The world thought Canada as a peace builder. But the past 10 years or so, Canada was nowhere with the decent opinions or action to share with the world. It's forgotten. So I think we really have to once again be a leader for peacemaking. And that we are. So this is where your lives can be heading. I hope you learn as much as you can about international relations, international law, and all these necessary things. And equipped with those information, you can produce the right kind of policy. And then go on United Nations was mentioned. Why not? You can be the ambassador or worker for the foreign affairs minister. I think well-informed, well-equipped young people and to be voicing for peace. And as a matter of fact, voicing for human survival. That is at stake. So that's what you can do. Do study, prepare yourself, and start talking with the decision makers, politicians, and let them know what you think. If you want peace or if you don't mind being incinerated, what is the choice? Let the decision maker know. Or you become the decision makers yourself. I think that's what the young people do. And you are the hope. That's where we put hope. And we have been working most of our lives for this. And my life is almost at the end. But I am grateful I had the opportunity to talk to students, politicians, leaders of the world, to talk about inhumanity of the use of nuclear weapon, and just hundreds of thousands, millions of people just wipe them out. What kind of morality do we have to think that as an acceptable policy and strategy? That has to stop. For that, we need information, knowledge. And that's what you're getting now by being the students. So do make a very good use of the time and rescue Canada, rescue the whole world, so we can all survive together and have a decent and just society. Not just existing, but a just society for everyone. Not just for the rich and powerful, but for everyone. I guess that would be my answer to you. Thank you for bringing that point. That was very good.
Thank you so much, Ms. Setsuko Thurlow. I think it's not an accident that we have Setsuko Thurlow here at the beginning of the first week of Advent, which conveniently centers hope and the action that we have to take as a Catholic community towards hope. And I think Ms. Thurlow has provided us a number of actions that we all collectively as a community or as individuals can take towards hope and peace and hopefully nuclear disarmament in our future. So thank you so much on behalf of the Toronto Catholic District School Board and all the staff and students here. Thank you for sharing your message and your personal history and your advocacy work towards hope for mankind. So can we give Ms. Thurlow a round of applause? And that's a small token of our appreciation. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, and just a few logistics for our students. We're going to break for lunch now, and we'd like you to come back at 12:15, and we will be screening the vow from Hiroshima, which is a documentary based on Miss Thurlow's life. We'll be screening it in the board office here, so please reconvene here at 12:15. And one more point of order.
Just for our organization, if we could get you lovely students to pick up your chairs and place them back in the boardroom, that would be wonderful. It would help us out greatly. Thank you so much.